Welcome everyone to the NAVFAC 101 Process-Driven Training course. My name is Bill Kitta. I will be conducting today's class. I have been with NAVFAC for over 15 years, both as a contractor and as an employee of NAVFAC. I currently work for the NAVFAC Atlantic Business Office. And in the past, I've worked extensively on the IE FacMan suite of applications. So this includes eProjects, eContracts, eTracker, and I continue to support those applications. And I'm also part of the process-driven training team. So I help in the development of a lot of these online courses, as well as conducting some of the training courses. So welcome everyone. The overall learning objectives of the NAVFAC 101 course is shown here. We're first going to go over the Department of Defense and Department of Navy organizational structure and show you where NAVFAC fits in. We'll talk about the concept of operations document, otherwise known as the CONOPS. We'll talk about our communities here at NAVFAC. We'll also go over our command structure here at NAVFAC. And at the very end, we'll talk a little bit about some of our business process enablers. So we'll start with the first learning objective, which is to go over the Department of Defense and Department of Navy organizational structure. The Department of Defense is a cabinet-level organization within the federal government, and there's three military departments that report to it: the Department of Army, Navy, and Air Force. In our course today, we're just going to be concentrating on the Department of Navy. The Department of Defense is headquartered at the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, and its mission is to provide military force in order to deter war and to protect the country. Our current Secretary of Defense is shown there on the right. It's General Lloyd Austin. Next, we are going to concentrate on the Department of Navy, otherwise known as DON or DON. Our current Secretary of the Navy is Mr. Carlos del Toro. And the Department of Navy has approximately 350,000 active duty personnel. There's about 100,000 reservists and about 195,000 civilians that work for it. The Secretary of Navy, otherwise known as SecNav, is responsible for all the affairs of the Department of Navy, including things like recruitment, organizing, supplying, equipping, and training and mobilizing our fighting forces, overseeing construction, outfitting, and repairs of our ships, naval equipment, and naval facilities. Towards the bottom of this slide, you see that the Secretary of Navy is broken out into two branches. We have Chief of Naval Operations, otherwise known as CNO, and the Commandant of the Marine Corps. And in our course today, we will just concentrate on the Chief of Naval Operations branch. Chief of Naval Operations, otherwise known as CNO, is a senior military officer within the Navy. The CNO is appointed by the President and is a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The Office of the Chief of Naval Operations, otherwise known as OPNAV, is responsible for the development and justification of program requirements for the Department of Navy. If you look to the upper right, we see an inset of the diagram we saw on the prior slide, where you see the Secretary of Navy, then you see Chief of Naval Operations, and then you see CNO broken out into two further branches. And the first branch we're going to concentrate on is operating forces, and that's where we see CNIC in the center of the slide. CNIC stands for Commander Naval Installations Command. CNIC is headquartered at the Washington Navy Yard in Washington, D.C., and it was established back in October 2003. CNIC is responsible for worldwide Navy shore installation management as the Navy shore integrator. And so essentially, CNIC and NAVFAC are partnered. CNIC provides the prioritization and validation of requirements, what needs to be done, and NAVFAC supports CNIC and our naval installations via the Public Works Departments, the PWDs. And our Public Works Departments serve as the forward deployed delivery point for facility engineering and acquisition support. On the next slide, we're showing the Department of Navy alignment with NAVFAC. So at the very top, you see the Secretary of Navy, SecNav. A Secretary of Navy is broken out into an Assistant Secretary of Navy. There is one for Research, Development, and Acquisition, RD&A, and one for Energy, Installation, and Environment. And if you look at those dashed lines going from the Assistant Secretary of Navy to NAVFAC, that's where we get our real estate and our acquisition authority from. So in the center, you see NAVFAC headquarters. If you follow that solid line from NAVFAC headquarters going up on the left-hand side, it goes directly to Chief of Naval Operations. NAVFAC reports directly up to CNO, Chief of Naval Operations, as does CNIC on the left. If you follow that solid line from CNIC, it goes directly to Chief of Naval Operations as well. So in today's class, we are going to talk more about the organizational structure of NAVFAC. We have NAVFAC headquarters shown here on this slide, which is an Echelon 2 level command. And then beneath NAVFAC headquarters, we have our Echelon 3 level commands. They include the Navy Crane Center, NAVFAC Atlantic and Pacific, EXWIC, which stands for the Engineering and Expeditionary Warfare Center. And then beneath NAVFAC Atlantic and Pacific, we have our Echelon 4 level commands. We have our FECs, which stand for Facility Engineering Commands. They exist under both PAC and LANT. And then we also have our OICCs, which stand for Officer in Charge of Construction. So in today's class, we will talk more about our command structure in much more detail. But moving on to our diagram, again, if you look on the upper right-hand side of the Secretary of Navy diagram, and then we have Chief of Naval Operations, the other branch is the Shore Establishment Branch. And that's where we finally see NAVFAC highlighted on the lower left. NAVFAC is one of 5 system commands under the Shore Establishment. And so on the next slide, we define what a systems command is. A systems command, otherwise known as a SysCom, are material agencies responsible for design, construction, and maintenance of assigned military systems, such as ships, aircraft, and the associated weaponry. In a military context, materiel refers to the equipment, technology, and supplies needed to perform a mission. Those 5 system commands we just mentioned are shown here. In no particular order, we have NAVAIR, which stands for the Navy Air Systems Command, and they specialize in aircraft aviation and associated weaponry. We have NAVSEA, which stands for the Navy Sea Systems Command, and they specialize in ships and subs and associated weaponry. We have NAVWAR, which is the Naval Warfare Systems Command, and they specialize in information technology. We have NAVSUP, the Navy Supply Systems Command, and they specialize in supply chain management. And then we have NAVFAC, the Naval Facilities Engineering Systems Command. NAVFAC provides facility services such as facility construction and expeditionary support to the Navy, Marine Corps, and various DoD commands worldwide. So NAVFAC has approximately 17,000 civilians that work for it. There are about 2,500 foreign nationals, 1,600 military personnel, and about 500 or so contractors. Those numbers are fluid, they change consistently, but as you can see, NAVFAC is a fairly large systems command. And really the rest of this course is to explain how NAVFAC is organized and what we do as a SysCom. What are the products and services that we produce as a systems command? So a little brief history of NAVFAC. NAVFAC was originally established back in 1842, and our original name was the Bureau of Naval Yards and Docks, otherwise known as BUDOCS. And we are the oldest of the Navy's system commands. In 1966, we renamed our command to the Naval Facilities Engineering Command, NAVFAC. Then in 2006, we went through a major reorganization. It was actually called the transformation. And this is when we used to have what we called Navy Public Works Centers, and we used to have engineering field activities and divisions, EFAs and EFDs. And they were all disestablished. And we were then all consolidated under the FEC structure, the Facility Engineering Command structure, which is what we still have today. Then in 2014, we actually lost a FEC. It was disestablished, and that was NAVFAC Midwest back in 2014. So now that we've introduced you to NAVFAC, we'll talk about the authority that is granted to NAVFAC by the Department of Defense, and that's shown here. We are the Department of Defense's design and construction agent for facility construction, and this includes the MILCON program, Military Construction Program. We have acquisition and program management of expeditionary engineering and logistics and ocean facility authority. We have policy and oversight for the Department of Navy weight handling program. We have acquisition, management, and disposal of real property authority. And finally, we have technical authority, acquisition authority, and management authority of design and construction work. We have maintenance and facility operation authority. We have facility cybersecurity authority, as well as real estate, environmental conservation, and remediation authority. And finally, non-tactical vehicle authority. So the authority granted to us roughly correlate to our capabilities in technical domains that we'll talk about next. If you have seen the strategic design document, you most likely have seen this particular slide. This is showing our capabilities here at NAVFAC, and our capabilities essentially encompass the mission, functions, and tasks that we perform here at NAVFAC. We have design and construction capability, maintenance and facility operations, real estate acquisition and management, ocean facility equipment and engineering, cybersecurity, environmental compliance, as well as environmental conservation, weight handling, non-tactical vehicle and equipment maintenance and operations, and expeditionary engineering and logistics. And we will talk more about our capabilities throughout this course. So now that we've introduced you to NAVFAC, the next topic and learning objective was to briefly go over the CONOPS, which stands for Concept of Operations. CONOPS is a document that explains the operational philosophy here at NAVFAC, and it explains how we are organized as a command. It incorporates the chief's strategic intent and desired operating environment, guides us on how we think, act, and behave within our organization. It also serves as a tool to educate our workforce, which is why we do this NAVFAC 101. Most of the content within NAVFAC 101 comes from this concept of operations document. So you can always download this document from our SharePoint site and cross-reference to learn more about a particular topic that we're going to be covering today. This document also serves as a communication tool for our supported commands. i.e. our customers. The last version of the CONOPS was released back in January 2023. This document is periodically updated. There's no specific time frame, but typically it runs between a year and a half, 2 years. Typically, we get a new version of the CONOPS. One of the diagrams within the CONOPS is this command laydown. And you will see this diagram multiple times within this course. But what this is basically showing is that NAVFAC is truly a worldwide command. We have over 100 public works departments, Marine Corps FIADs, and ROICs, resident officer in charge of construction, worldwide. We have multiple OICCs, officer in charge of construction, worldwide. We have multiple FECs dispersed throughout the globe. We have our Echelon 3-level commands, which include NAVFAC Atlantic, Pacific, EXWIC, the Engineering and Expeditionary Warfare Center, as well as the Navy Crane Center. And then finally, we have NAVFAC headquarters in Washington, D.C. If you look at this diagram, the green shaded area to the right is depicting the NAVFAC Atlantic AOR, area of responsibility within the globe. On the left in the light pink is showing the NAVFAC Pacific area of responsibility. So this concludes this portion of the presentation.